Welcome to episode 15 of Killer Stories. I'm your host, Bobbie Holmes. Guys, I way surpassed 3,000 downloads after uploading my Ed Gingrich episode, which was freaking insane, by the way. If you haven't listened, you need to. As a thank you, I have a giveaway going on now through the end of September. Just go to my Facebook or Instagram page at Killer Stories Podcast. All you need to do is tag 3 friends on the giveaway post and you'll be entered to win a Killer Stories custom t-shirt. My friend Missy at Freedom Street Boutique makes them for me, and they turned out so awesome. Don't miss out on your chance for some free merch. This week, I'm going to take it easy and I'm discussing an attempted murder. Still not what I would consider a happy ending, but at least no one died, just seriously injured. One of my faithful listeners, Brianna, sent me some really interesting stories from her hometown of San Diego. I love when listeners write into me because I get to investigate cases I've never heard before. So keep them coming, listeners. This story is about Connie Hoagland. She lived in Rancho San Diego with her husband, Larry. They have 3 children together, Jill, Jacqueline, and Jonathan. The Hoagland family was close-knit. They took a trip together every year to Disneyland. The whole family attended church together every Sunday. Connie and Larry actually taught Bible study there. Connie was a stay-at-home mom while their kids were young. She enjoyed it so much once her kids were older and in school, she started working at a local daycare center. San Diego is not a cheap place to live. A daycare worker's salary is relatively low. Larry was a professional photographer. He kept as busy as possible to make money to support their family. In 2007, he began traveling for photography opportunities outside of San Diego. Even with Larry's traveling for work, they were still struggling financially. When he was home, he was stressed out and grumpy. He just didn't seem himself. Times were rough, and before they knew it, Connie and Larry were over $80,000 in debt. The couple filed for bankruptcy. September 23, 2010. Connie finishes her shift at the daycare center around 4:20 p.m. and walks out to her Ford pickup truck to head home for the day. She puts the key in the ignition and cranks the engine. When she turns the key, there's an explosion. Connie is in shock. Her ears are ringing. It's hard for her to focus. Smoke starts filling up inside of the truck. The only thing she can focus on is the severe pain she feels in her feet. She pulls herself out of the truck and lies on the road. She was bleeding profusely from her lower body. Her truck slowly starts moving on its own and crashes into a van that was parked on the side of the road. The owner of the daycare comes running outside to see what the loud noise was. She finds Connie laying on her side in a pool of blood. There is broken glass and metal shards everywhere in the street. She immediately calls 911. Paramedics rush Connie to the hospital, while her boss calls the family to inform them of what just happened. Larry and the kids make it to the hospital just in time to see Connie being taken back for surgery. Her feet were severely damaged in the explosion. She had to have a rod placed in her right leg, and muscle was transplanted from her abdomen to replace the top of her foot that was blown off. Police examined the truck and quickly realized this wasn't an accident. This explosion was from a pipe bomb that was planted underneath the driver's seat. The only reason Connie was still alive was due to the placement of the bomb. Her feet took the hit. She was lucky it wasn't placed further back. But who would be targeting Connie Hoagland? Was she specifically the target? Or was this a terrorist attack? The bomb squad said they hadn't seen a bomb like this used in the States before. They initially did think this was terrorists. The Strange thing was, 2 weeks prior to the bombing in Connie's truck, police found another pipe bomb inside of a FedEx padded envelope left in the middle of the road. The bomb had never detonated. This bomb was rigged to explode when a phone number was called. It showed there were 18 missed calls, so someone definitely wanted that bomb to go off. It just failed. This bomb was found just a few blocks away from the Hoagland home, and it was on Connie's route to work. So the investigators now believe Connie was the specific target. The package must have fallen off while she was driving. It seemed like the bomber had attempted to conceal the second bomb in the same way. There was a burned image of a FedEx label that was held on with duct tape underneath of Connie's truck. 4 days after the bombing, a FedEx package was delivered to Steel Canyon High School. All mail came in through the front office. This package was addressed to a student, which in itself is a red flag, but especially when that student is Jonathan Hoagland. The school was well aware of his mother's recent attack and immediately put the entire school in lockdown. Brianna, the listener that sent in this story, she actually went to this high school with Jonathan. She was there working in the front office when this package was delivered. She shared her experience from that day. A man working in the main office had instructed her to go to the guidance counselor's office. Brianna didn't know what was going on at this point. When she got to the office, it was completely empty. She said that it was always really busy in there, so this freaked her out. As she sat there by herself, a teacher came running through the halls, gathering any stragglers to get into the closest classroom and huddle in a corner. The entire county was shut down over this bomb scare. The staff and students were locked in the high school for hours, waiting for word on what was going on. Luckily, this was 2010, and most everyone had cell phones and were able to let their families know they were safe. But after a while, people have to use the bathroom. She said boys were actually peeing in the trash cans. But it would be kind of weird for girls to pop a squat over the trash can. So they did allow girls to sprint to the restrooms and return back as fast as possible. But they insisted that they ran in a zigzag pattern. Which makes me think of this nature show I just watched with my son. It said butterflies fly in a zigzag pattern to avoid being caught by predators. None of this is funny. Bomb scares, death threats, school shootings, all very serious and scary things. But now that I know this was just a scare, I feel okay getting a kick out of picturing these girls sprinting in a zigzag down the hall. Finally, the bomb squad called off the lockdown. The package was just party supplies that were ordered for an event at school. Jonathan apparently forgot he had ordered them. Man, the San Diego bomb squad had a busy week thanks to the Hoagland family. Connie was recovering in the ICU, but police really needed to interview her. When it seemed like Connie was well enough to talk, investigators informed her that they believed she was targeted in this attack. Until now, Connie had assumed it was some sort of freak accident. She never thought in a million years someone would try to harm her. She had no enemies. She was a woman of God, well-liked in her community. Who would want her dead? Whoever was responsible knew where she lived. They knew where she worked. It was someone close to their family and knew her routine. Of course, the investigators then go on to ask her about her marriage with Larry, to which she tells them it was fine. But in more recent interviews, she admits that things hadn't been that great for a couple of years. They were growing apart. But in their Christian faith, you work things out. Divorce is somewhat frowned upon. As far as she knew, they were still committed to each other as husband and wife and saw no reason for Larry to be behind this attack. Just when the investigators thought they hit a dead end of possible suspects, a tip was called in. Larry's business partner called to tell police about some suspicious browser history found on their work computer. There were Google searches for videos on how to make a bomb, as well as websites for ingredients listed in bomb making. He and Larry are the only ones that use that computer, and he didn't make those searches. What a dumbass. I don't know how people do things like this and think they will actually get away with it. Even I delete my browser history because the things I Google for researching this podcast make me look really suspicious. As if these incriminating internet searches weren't enough, investigators also found love letters from a woman named Leanne Rupert in his desk drawer. Leanne was actually a girl that Larry dated in high school. She was a divorcee living in Pennsylvania. About 3 years ago, Leanne must have been reminiscing her high school days because she reached out to Larry and wanted to give their relationship another try. Larry lied and told Leanne that he too was getting a divorce and had moved out of his family home. So they revived their high school relationship. They even sent each other thousands of sappy texts like a couple of teenagers. Those trips when Larry was traveling for work? All bullshit. He was visiting Leanne in Pennsylvania. The reason they were so in debt was because this asshole opened a second mortgage on their house to pay for the flights back and forth to see Leanne. Larry and Leanne talked about getting married, and Leanne was getting fed up with Larry's excuses about why it hadn't happened yet. He had plans to move in with Leanne and start a new life, going as far as interviewing for jobs in Pittsburgh. The problem was, he still had a life in San Diego. All he had to do was man up and admit to the affair and ask for a divorce. But I guess Larry thought that murdering his wife was a better option. The day police discovered the browser history and love letters, Larry was arrested for the attempted murder of Connie. But all the evidence was circumstantial. There weren't any fingerprints or DNA found on either bomb, and there was no solid proof it was Larry that did those internet searches. When Larry was detained, police found something in Larry's wallet that could help with prosecution. There were 2 business cards that had phone numbers handwritten on them. These phone numbers were to the phones that were wired to each bomb. The first one found on the street and the second one that was meant to kill Connie. At the time the first bomb was found, Larry was in Pennsylvania, but the type of bomb he created, all it took was a phone call, which can be done from anywhere. He probably thought he was being pretty slick creating an alibi for the attack. Jacqueline, Jill, and Jonathan were completely shocked at the arrest of their father. They had no idea there was any turmoil in their parents' marriage. They were still going to church together every Sunday, still having meals together and attending events together. Everything seemed fine. They told the police they had the wrong guy. There was no way their dad could have done this to their mom. Larry called Connie's hospital room from jail. This is a direct quote from Larry. "Hi, Connie. I just wanted to let you know, because it's going to get out, that I've been having an affair. But I'm dedicated to you ever since Thursday, and that was the day of the bombing." "I've been dedicated to you since Thursday? Shut the hell up. This guy sounds like a complete idiot." But on Thursday, when he was so dedicated to Connie, he sent Leanne a selfie from the hospital saying, "I love you, wish you were here." The moment Connie heard Larry say those words, she knew he was lying. Something clicked. Her blinders came off, and she knew he was the one behind her attack. She later told police that she thought that Larry had actually tried to kill her once before. She said he tried to poison her and then smother her with a pillow. Wait. Really? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm 100% Team Connie here, but this makes no sense. I mean, how did that situation end? Did she fight back? Was she groggy and thought maybe it was a dream? If you thought your husband tried to kill you, why are you just going on with life like nothing happened? And when you were almost killed by a bomb in your truck, why wouldn't you immediately be like, he did it, it was Larry? Larry Hoagland was living a double life. He was lying to Connie and Leanne. Leanne knew nothing about his attempts to murder his wife. In fact, as far as she knew, he was divorced and living alone. I don't know what Larry was thinking. Even if he did end up killing Connie, he still had 3 children. The 2 oldest daughters were technically adults, but Jonathan was still in high school. Were you just going to abandon him? Both of the women testified against him in court, and it wasn't pretty. On May 25th, 2020, Dateline featured an episode on Larry Hoagland called Deadly Intent. Here's what his children had to say in their testimonies.
Larry is no longer my father, and I am no longer his daughter. I haven't spoken to Larry in almost 2 years, and after today, I will never see or speak to him again.
Larry, you disgust me. He does not deserve or have the right to refer to us as his family anymore. When Larry dies in prison, no one will shed a tear.
I exercise my divine right to wash my hands of you. Your soul is of no concern or consequence to me. And now you will live your hell.
They won't even refer to him as their father. They call him Larry. They completely cut him out of their lives and seem to be in a better place without him. Larry Hoagland denies having any involvement with the bombs or attempting to kill Connie. He says he was going to tell Connie he wanted a divorce as he was headed out the door to Pennsylvania. This is the story he used in his defense. His photography studio was in an area where truckers and drifters gathered in the plaza's large parking lot. Larry kindly shared the Wi-Fi with them and said someone there must have been doing the internet searches on bomb making using their Wi-Fi. I'm no IT expert, but I don't even think it works that way. I could be wrong, but I assume those searches would have to be made on that specific device. He claimed that it was a man named Jerry that set him up for murder, and that's where the phone numbers in his wallet came from too. Larry says that Jerry gave him his phone number and the second number was Jerry's wife. These numbers were written on 2 different business cards. Neither card said anything other than a phone number on it. So if this was true, why wouldn't he write Jerry's name on there with the number? And why would he need Jerry's wife's number? Who the hell is Jerry? I don't even think Larry knows, but he claims that a drifter named Engine Joe does and will back up his story. Dateline tracks down Engine Joe.
We talked to Joe.
Great.
He's never heard of Jerry.
Anybody that resembles my description of Jerry? Anybody at all?
So now you're not sure of the guy's name.
I've never been completely sure of his name. I called him Jerry. Anybody that resembles Jerry. I wasn't positive his name was Jerry.
Joe says he doesn't know anyone like that. Can't help us. And he wasn't unhelpful. He was actually quite willing to talk with us. He says he doesn't know anything about it.
That's very disheartening.
Is there really a Jerry?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. There's a man out there who's responsible for this. And I'm not him.
I gotta ask you. I mean, did you think about just getting divorced?
Yes.
I mean, if you had just gotten divorced, none of this would have happened. You wouldn't be in there. I wouldn't be here talking to you. You'd be in Pennsylvania with your girlfriend, and your wife would be angry at you.
which would not have been the right thing to do to leave my family. In hindsight, yes.
But it beats murder.
Jerry doesn't exist. Larry wrote the numbers down on 2 different business cards. One number was wired to the first bomb that failed to detonate, and the second number was the one he dialed the day he nearly succeeded at killing his wife. It's insane to think that a complete stranger would stalk your wife, learn her schedule, then attempt to frame you for her murder. For what possible reason? The jury saw right through this bogus story as well. Larry was sentenced to life in prison plus 13 years. Which is so silly. How do you serve 13 years after your life is over? 3 charges were related to using an explosive device in addition to the premeditated attempted murder charge. I think it's awesome he got life for attempted murder. Some states let people out after 25 years or less for murder. Just because he wasn't successful, his intent was to kill her. I have to play this for you because it's so ridiculous hearing Larry trying to deny involvement. And I love the jabs Josh Mankiewicz gives during this interview.
I did not try to kill my wife. I'm adamant about this.
The only thing Larry said was true was that he did have an affair.
Yeah, I was cheating on my wife. I was cheating on my family.
You were in love with somebody else.
Yeah, I was. Yes, I was. To be perfectly frank, yes.
And you were, going to ask your wife for a divorce?
Yes.
And walk out?
That was pretty much it, yes. I let a lot of people down. I deceived a lot of people. I forsook a lot of people. I did.
Is that the worst sin you've committed?
Yes. Besides adultery, yeah.
Because what you're in here for...
Oh, yes.
Pretty much tops all of that.
Mr. Mankiewicz, I did not try to kill my wife. I did not. I had nothing to do with what happened to Connie. There is somebody out there who is responsible for the whole thing. And there's a maniac out there.
The whole thing, meaning trying to kill your wife and framing you for it.
Yes.
Larry,
fiction is...
Who has motive to do that? You wanted out of your marriage. You had a girlfriend. You were planning to leave your wife and your family. And you didn't want to pay the alimony, and you tried to kill her.
Alimony was nothing. You know, and I tell you all these things because it's the truth. I'm not going to stand behind and start explaining details after details. I just have to tell you it's the truth.
You guys, there's a maniac out there. Come on, Larry. Your story is beyond unbelievable. You lied to your family, you lied to Leanne, and you're lying now. After the attack, doctors were unsure if Connie would ever be able to walk again. After 7 surgeries and a lot of physical therapy, miraculously Connie is back on her feet, but she is physically limited. Her feet were left with extensive scarring. There is permanent nerve damage to her foot. Her toes do not bend, so she is able to walk, but she can't function like she used to. Connie also suffers from hearing problems caused from the explosion. But Connie is alive. She is a survivor, and Larry is a coward, who's going to spend the rest of his life in a prison cell. All of the source information can be found on the show notes. The most helpful was the Dateline episode, Deadly Intent. Next week, I'm going to kick off the spooky season with my first paranormal story. For those of my listeners who voted to just stick to murder stories, there is some true crime in this one, so a little something for everyone. I'm getting so much love and positive feedback from you guys. Be sure to get on Apple Podcasts or my Facebook page and leave me a 5-star written review. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, which I thought we might be losing TikTok, but it seems like for now it's still up and running, at Killer Stories Podcast. Email me story suggestions to KillerStoriesPodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, this has been a Killer Story.